Basic functions. When you decide to start making your own reports using the steel data, the first thing you want to do is hit this Create New Report button. What that does is start a completely empty report with the cubes you subscribe to showing up on the left. So you can see here down on the bottom, this is the steel cube, which is what you'll be working out of. The first thing you want to do after you've started a new report, use the Detach button so that you can actually work in your full screen like this. Now the Start New Report, the empty report that you get gives you all of the primary objects that you would want to make a report with. And if you had experience with the previous cube tool supported through Cognos, you'll have a lot of edge as far as understanding how to use this online tool that we're now hosting. Okay, so the first thing you may have noticed is that I can look at what data I subscribe to, i.e. which cube I subscribe to, by hitting this blue circle with a white triangle in the middle on the left. So there's my AISI steel cube. If I hit plus here, you can see it's sorted into measures and dimensions. The measures, of course, being the data itself that you can pull, and we have quite a lot of it. And the dimensions being the metadata that actually describes those measures and allows you to filter on them. Okay, so you may recognize here that these folders are set up in a way that relates to the old Cognos cubes. So you can see the raw steel production is in its own folder here, the shipment information is in its own folder, and the import-export information is in its own folder. As far as dimensions go, the dimension folders are basically the descriptors that describe those measures. So in this example, let's go ahead and populate a table and a filter using the production information. So I'm going to actually right now, I'm going to go ahead and close the chart, which is okay because we'll be creating a chart in just a moment. Let's open up the raw steel production folder, and if I right click here, this production net tons, click inside the table you want, right click on the measure you want, and just add to data area. So I right clicked on production net tons, I'm going to add that to the data area. You can see that started off my table. But now I need to decide how I want to organize that. So let's go ahead and open the date folder here. Just make a really simple example. I'm going to add year on the x-axis of my table here. So let's right click year, add that to the rows. Now you can see it fills out years here on the left. Okay, and let's also break it out by the state level production. So we're going to go ahead and open up this production state grouping here. Add that along the top. Add to column. You can see the state breakout now. So at this point I've made a pivot table that's filled with the information I'm interested in. You may wonder why I kept the report filter open. Well, the report filter is useful for creating on-the-fly filters as I go along through this data. So for example, I could pick up, drag and drop this production state group here. I'm going to drag that into the report filter. Now that item is sitting inside of the filter. Use these drop downs to actually select which buttons I'd like to filter by. So let's go ahead and turn on a few of these states. Okay. Now it hasn't applied the filter yet. All it did was make buttons for them. But one thing that's kind of cool that you're going to notice here is if I make a selection now on one of these buttons, it's going to send that command through to the table. So I'll just turn on Pennsylvania, and it sends that command through the table. The filter told the table to filter only on Pennsylvania. Okay, if you want to make a chart that talks to the table you made, it's actually pretty simple. Right click inside of the table that you're working out of, and there's this create chart option. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go with a column chart here. So now what we've done is we've made a chart here that contains the filter I've selected, and it corresponds with the table. The cool thing about it is actually if I make modifications to the table as we work along here, the chart's just going to follow along automatically. So if I turn this over to these three states, it passes that information into both objects. So you can actually make yourself a pretty easily filterable query that you can come back to. And if you would like to save that, you can use this Save As button If you put things in your private folder, that's going to be only for you to see. If you use the corporate option here, that's going to be anyone inside of your institution can go look at your dashboard. Okay, one final thing to note here is that you can select more than one filter at a time if you'd like to. The way to do that, so let's say I want to select both Pennsylvania and this set of New England-y type states up here. You can actually just click this name, production state group. If I click on that, I get a choice here to switch this over to multiple. And now I can turn both on. And you can see that it added both that to the table and the chart, which is pretty handy.